that is just part of the game. It is not wins and losses, it is wins and lessons. Manifestations don't work, especially the way that you want to, because there's a negative meditation and then a positive affirmations, and they cancel each other out. You know, we talk about manifestation, we talk about visualizing, and I want to say something that might offend everybody in here.
Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high.
Well, I am so looking forward to this conversation, and I feel like I owe it to my brother's wife to say wife at least 10 times during this interview. Don't none of y'all embarrass me. You know what I mean? So, right, Mary, if you like it, then you gotta put a ring, that whole thing, okay? And so I'm excited to have you here, Andre. We already had a really good discussion, but I want to kick this off with this. Ooh, okay. I have an idea. Because we did the Dreamer's Den earlier, which is a visualization exercise, I would love for you to explain why, for some people, manifestation doesn't work.
Okay. First of all, before we get into this,
Yes.
I got to bring something up.
Of course.
You know, we talk about manifestation, we talk about visualizing, and I want to say something that might offend everybody in here.
Oh.
You know, I was having a good day before I got here. Yeah, when I got here, my mood changed because I heard some of y'all talking about me. I heard you back there, especially you over there. Listen up. I am not LeBron James, all right? Come on now. LeBron would never look this good, all right? Just saying. Okay. Now that I got that out the way. So why does manifesting not work? All right, so a lot of people, they have this idea of manifesting as, I throw coals in the air and diamonds will fall down. That is not what it is. So the reason why a lot of times is there are 3 components to manifestation, if we want to use that word. All right, there's meditation, affirmation, visualization. I've talked about that before. Well, the word meditate actually means to focus your thoughts. Meditare comes from a Greek word. All right, so that's all that means, focus your thoughts. Now, a lot of us, especially when we're going through situations, we have a negative meditation. Even though somebody might sit in a chair and say, or something like that, right? But in reality, as long as you're focused on the negative, you have a negative meditation no matter what. The second thing is affirmations. Everybody say affirmations.
Affirmations.
Now look, we all talk about making positive affirmations, correct? That's a good thing. Well, the word affirmation has the word firm inside of it, F-I-R-M. That word firm is supposed to make something firm, which is what? Your positive meditation. So if you have a negative meditation, and a positive affirmation, well, what is a negative times a positive? What does it always equal? Negative. They cancel each other out. And so that's why a lot of times that manifestations don't work, especially the way that you want to, because there's a negative meditation and then a positive affirmations, and they cancel each other out.
Did y'all catch that? Now give us the 3 parts again, because you kind of zoomed by the framework, but everybody didn't watch our pre-event interview. They didn't all do the pre-game show.
Okay. So the 3-part framework is meditation, affirmation, and visualization. So like I said, meditation just means to focus your thoughts. Affirmation is just supposed to make firm whatever you've been meditating. Now visualization is really the secret sauce. All right, actually, you know what? I'm feeling spicy right now with my red coat on. How about, can I take everybody through a visualization?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. All right, real quick. I need everybody.
Is that okay, y'all?
Is that okay? All right, so look, I need everybody to close your eyes real quick. All right, close your eyes. Now, all I want you to do is follow my voice with your mind. Okay, imagine yourself walking on the beach with your best friend or your spouse, and you feel the breeze. You feel that breeze? Oh, there's a wave that crashes over your foot. You feel that wave? Kick that wave real quick. And so as you're walking, you look about 10 feet in front of you, and you see a box halfway buried in the sand. You see that box? So you walk over to the box, you pick it up. It's kind of wet, it's kind of cold, and it has your name on it. You see that? You open the box, and listen up, there's $50,000 cash in it. You pick up the money, you feel the money, smell the money real quick, smell the money. And then you get a tap on your shoulder, and you turn around, and it's a walking, talking dolphin. All right, wake up. I just wanted to scare y'all real quick. I want to scare you out of there. All right, so listen up. Let me ask you, for a split second, who actually felt like they were there for a split second? Okay. All right, who kicked the wave? What color was your box? Okay. So everybody had who felt the money? Now, I saw some of y'all, who smelled the money? I saw some of y'all sniffing. So that, ladies and gentlemen, that is a proper visualization. You have to put all elements of the senses inside of it. See, even in the Holy Scriptures, they talk about the 5 wise virgins versus the 5 foolish virgins. What that actually a lot of times means from a psychological level is you have 5 senses on the outside, but then you can use your 5 senses on the inside. And most people don't use those 5 internal senses. So therefore, that's a proper visualization. So what a visualization is you're only supposed to take what you've been meditating and affirming and make a mental movie, just like we just did, of those 2 things. That is the proper art of manifestation.
Give it up for that. Give it up for that. And I wanted to start with that because your expertise is really mental toughness, mindset, and you go to schools all around the country. You're literally always on an airplane, I feel like. All over the country, helping these schools to help their students succeed. Now, originally, though, did you develop mental toughness on the field?
That's a good question. Probably, see, growing up, believe it or not, I did not play sports growing up. I didn't play football until high school. Like, I grew up the fat kid growing up. All right, well, hold on. In the 90s, you had to call it husky, okay? So I grew up the husky kid growing up. So I did not play sports. I didn't play football until high school. The only reason I played football was because my brother, I had an older brother, he made me play. But here's the thing, and I talk about this, and I talk about the fuel of embarrassment. I've talked about this before. One of the things that I disliked more than football was being embarrassed. I hate being embarrassed. So I developed a sense of toughness, not because I love the sport, but at the time, I knew my girlfriend was in the stands watching me, and I did not want to get embarrassed in front of her. So listen to me, you got to think about it like this. I didn't want to get embarrassed on a high school level in front of my city. In college, I went even harder because you could get embarrassed on a national level.
Yeah.
In the NFL, you could get embarrassed on an international level. So I always use the fuel of embarrassment, and looking back, actually, that desire to not be embarrassed was actually what caused a lot of mental toughness in me.
Now, I have a question about that, because if you don't want to be embarrassed, but you are learning something, you're getting better at it, your first year in the NFL, for instance, and did you get cut your first year as well?
I started my series of getting cut after my 4th year.
4th year, okay. So your first year in the NFL, you're probably going in and you're not you're learning the ropes, right? How does the fuel of embarrassment not make you shrink versus allow you to shine?
So there are 2 ways. Now, there's embarrassment because of a situation, right? And then there's embarrassment because you do not want to be seen, like you said. So at times, so I'm not immune to embarrassment. I'm not immune to struggles. I'm not immune to even losing. I mean, I play for the Lions. So, hey, I love my team now. But listen to this. Hold on. Before I get started, let me stand up for this one. Hold on. I want to let you know that you are in the presence of royalty right now. All right. Now, you might not know this, but because of what I did on the field my rookie year, the Detroit Lions had the first perfect season in NFL history. I think that deserves a round of applause.
Yeah!
That's me. Woo! Now, somebody might be thinking, when in the world did the Lions have a perfect season? Well, I'll tell you, in 2008, when I got drafted with the 87th pick overall, thank you very much. Because of what I did on the field, the Detroit Lions had a perfect record of 0 wins and 16 losses. All right, we just perfected losing. That's all that was, all right?
No way.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. So...
And I would have never known, because transparently, I can't say I watch a lot of football, but I do love people who are excellent.
Okay.
And so I study coaches and athleticism from that perspective. But one of the things that you mentioned was, okay, the pain of embarrassment, there's 2 different types of embarrassment, but you also have talked about how you sometimes did run away from the spotlight, which is what caused some of those cuts to happen starting in your 4th year. So can you talk about the difference between running away from the spotlight, running towards it, and how you've navigated that and where people should fall?
So there are 3 types of people. There are people that run to the spotlight. That's actually not a very good thing. There are people that run from the spotlight. That's just as bad. But then there are people that absorb the spotlight, that sit right here on stage and change clothes 5 times and own the spotlight. And that's the difference. So a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, earlier in my career, I didn't want that spotlight. If there was a play that I knew we called them spotlight plays, where I was one-on-one with an offensive lineman, if I won, we won the play, potentially win the game. If I lost that 1 rep, we lose the play, we lose the game potentially. And I used to run from those reps. I didn't want them. Because I knew the pain of embarrassment was greater than the thrill of victory at that point. But then I started realizing, like, hold on. The only way you can win is with the threat of losing. So you have to have that threat of losing. You have to absorb that threat of losing. That's why some of my favorite athletes, my second favorite player of all time is Tom Brady. It doesn't matter if he throws 5 touchdowns or 5 interceptions. That is just part of the game. It is not wins and losses. It is wins and lessons. Remember that.
That's really good. And now, you started playing football for the first time ever in life in high school? When did you determine or decide that you were going to go pro?
You know, I never had a desire to go play pro football, ever. The only reason I played in high school was, there's this crazy story. My older brother, he was a senior, I was a freshman. He was a star football player. I was a fat kid that did not want to play football. And it was football trials day. Husky, excuse me. So I knew that he was going to try to make me play, so I tried to get out of school before he could come catch me. And the dude caught me before I got out the building. And so this is what he says to me. He says, hey, man, we got football trials today. And I said, bro, I'm not playing football. For the first time in my life, I tried to stand up to my big bro. Now, I was bigger than my big bro at the time, but my man, big bro, he's a little crazy. He ain't wrapped all the way tight. So this is what he said to me. He says, hey, man, I really got to tell you something right now. He says, come close. He says, come close. Like, he gets real close to me, right up in my face. He's breathing his hot, stinking breath on me, like, just right here. And this is what he says to me. He looked at me in my eyes, and I thought he was going to tell me something good. He said, you know you're fat, right? And I said, bro, of course I know that. I look down, I can't see my toes, bro. Like, come on, like, of course. So then he said, but you're really fast. He said, you're actually the fastest fat person I have ever seen in my life. And he said, bro, y'all make good football players, so you got to play. And he literally made me play. He would not let me leave. So it was because of my big brother that I started playing. But it wasn't until I developed the proper mindset is when I started loving playing. So sometimes you got to do some stuff that you don't necessarily like. But then when you get your mindset in order, the thing that you didn't like may very well be the thing that you start loving.
That is so good. That is really, really good. So were you good when you didn't like it?
Oh, I was real good. Big bro was right. Fat, fast people make good football players. I'm just saying.
That is incredible. So so you started in high school, you played college ball, and in college, did you decide I'm going to be in the NFL? When did you make that shift?
Interesting. Okay. It wasn't until maybe my redshirt sophomore year. So there was this guy, even though I didn't love playing football, I still wanted to be good. It was kind of like, how a lot of times we kind of play small, but we really, really want to do great things. Like a lot of us do that. We kind of shrink back, but inside we really want to do awesome things. That's how I was, okay? So when I got to Florida State, I was like, okay, I'm going to be the next great Seminole defensive lineman. And then, but that dream had a huge problem in front of it. And that problem was wrapped up in the body of another defensive lineman, but unlike me being 6'2", 290 pounds, this dude was 6'5", 340. All right, gigantic. But listen, he could do a standing backflip. He could do a 360 dunk. Biggest, best athlete I have ever seen in my life until this day. So if he was playing, guess who wasn't playing?
Yeah.
Me, right? All right, I want you to remember his name, too, because this is really special. All right, his name was Carl. Everybody say Carl.
Carl.
like I said, Carl was 6'5", 340. He played, I didn't play, but Carl had an issue. Carl didn't like going to class. So, in college, you don't go to class, that's all well and good, but you don't go to class, you don't get the grades, they kick you out of school. Yeah. So Carl didn't go to class, I did. Carl didn't get the grades, I got him. They kicked Carl out of school, guess who got the starting spot on the football team? But that's not the end of our story of our friend named Carl. Now, when you're 6'5" and 340 and can do standing backflips, that's very valuable to a university. So 2 weeks before the season started, they figured out a loophole to get Carl back in school.
Wow.
2 weeks before the season started, he took my spot on the team. 2 years, I didn't play because Carl played.
Wow.
And, I work hard, and I work very hard. I went to all my classes. I felt like I was doing the right thing. You ever feel like you're doing the right thing, but the wrong thing keeps happening? That's what happened to me. But that's not the end of our story of our friend named Carl. So, Carl had another issue. Carl had an attitude issue. Oh. He was from the Pork and Beans Projects down in Miami. Have you ever heard of Pork and Beans? Yeah, it's a rough spot, right? From the Pork and Beans. So he had this edge about him, around drugs a lot his growing up. So Carl had an attitude issue. Now, one day, Carl was at Walmart.
Oh.
Carl was at the checkout counter at Walmart. Carl pulls out his credit card. He swipes his card to pay for his stuff, and what happened? That wasn't the problem. Problem is what the cashier lady said to him. Cashier lady looked at Carl, looked at him right in the eyes, and she said, "You can't afford this stuff, can you?" You see that face? You don't say that to a 6'5", 340-pound man at a snack. So Carl had some options. Carl could have walked away. Carl could have looked at the lady back in her eyes and said, "Hold up, lady, don't disrespect me like that." That would have been fine. Well, Carl didn't do either one of those two things. So you know that the candy section that's beside the checkout counter at most grocery stores, you know what I'm talking about? Carl, with all of his 6'5" and 340 pounds, he bent over. He grabbed the entire section. He picked it up, and he threw it at the lady. I mean, she get hit with Kit Kats and Snickers and Skittles. I mean, old girl tasted the whole rainbow, okay? And so anyway, they called the police. They kicked Carl out of school for real this time. And guys, after 3 years, guess who finally got the starting spot on the football team? And the rest is history.
Okay, hold up. That's amazing. So sorry, Carl. I really hope you dealt with your anger issues because you could have been here, but, So the thing is, this is such a good story. So for 3 years, you're riding the bench.
Riding the bench.
You have 1 year to play, and this is your senior year?
So I redshirted, so I had 2 more years to play.
Okay, so you had 2 more years to play, and in that time, you attract the attention of the NFL?
So it was because, remember I told you, I hate being embarrassed. From a macro level down to a micro level, which means is I hated being embarrassed from the stands of the crowd to the strength coach saying I'm not going hard enough.
So let me ask you this question. In that 3-year period of waiting, what was your preparation, your workout like? Were you still operating at the level of a starter, or were you working out less because you were riding the bench?
Operating at a level beyond a starter.
Let's talk about it.
Because remember, again, we have 2 fuels. There's a fuel of enjoyment and the fuel of embarrassment. I talk about both of those. One of the things that, and I wish I didn't have to say it like this, but I guess I have to. Because I hated being embarrassed, the one thing I enjoyed was admiration. And so admiration from a strength coach meant everything. Admiration from the coach saying, "Fluellen, you were in first place in the sprints today," meant everything. Admiration in practice saying, "Why don't you guys practice like Fluellen? When he gets his shot, it's going to be on." I sought out admiration so passionately, and that drove me as well.
Dang, that's deep. We could go so, it's the 6 o'clock, I got so many questions. So you got fear of the enjoyment. Actually, it's the enjoyment.
It's the enjoyment,
came from the admiration, and then the fear of embarrassment. What did you call the enjoyment?
So it's the fuel of enjoyment and the fuel of embarrassment.
Fuel of enjoyment, fuel of embarrassment. I hope you have all these trademarks because these are incredible. Really good.
That's
really
where
good
you
frameworks.
come in.
I got you.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. We'll talk about it. But okay, we got these fuels. This is so good. And you talk in sound bites like me, so I really like this. Okay. How did you then, when you got your shot in those 2 years, because you were on the bench for 3 years, but you were still operating at a level beyond a starter because of the fuel of the, I'm going to get your trademark wrong. Okay, admiration, because of the admiration. How has that ever backfired?
Oh, absolutely, it's backfired. It's backfired plenty of times because the same rope they pull you up on is the same rope they'll hang you on.
So true.
And so therefore, admiration can absolutely backfire until you find the admiration from within.
Yes.
And that's what I missed, but that's what I got now, baby, okay?
Yeah.
So, so it backfired plenty of times.
Yeah.
From the people that I sought the admiration from when they didn't give it to me, it used to destroy me. And so therefore, for anybody who deals with that, and it still creeps up in me from time to time, just like everybody else. But when I started just admiring myself, when I started looking in the mirror at myself and saying, dude, you are incredible, you are amazing, you are that and then some. And I say it to myself every single day. I look good, feel good, and smell good, baby. Every day I say that to myself. Why? Because I know since I craved admiration from the outside, I had to go overboard to do it for myself.
That's really good. That's really good. Okay, and now 2 years, you play your final 2 years, and you get drafted to the Detroit Lions. Your first 4 years, uneventful, but great, because you're in there, you're not getting cut. What happens in the fourth year that shifts into your first time getting cut?
Well, what happens is, since I was drafted, a lot of times you kind of get a grace period as a draft pick. So I played for 3 years, not getting cut, because they want to give you time to develop. But then at that point in time, too, so there's a thing in the NFL where your salary goes up every single year. So I had the minimum salary. So I didn't get like a huge signing bonus or anything like that.
What's the minimum NFL salary?
So when I was playing, the NFL league minimum was $314,000. Okay. All right? So like you think like most players are actually making that. There's only a select few that are really making the multiple millions of dollars, but that's what you really hear about. But league minimum was $314,000, I believe, and that's what I was making. But it goes up every year. So it'll go 314, then 414, then 450. And then at some point in time, the team has to start making a business decision. Even though he's developing, is he, let's say my league minimum at year 4 was $500,000, and then the rookie was $315,000. Is he $200,000 better than the other guy? So it becomes a game of numbers. So at that point in time, I got caught up in the numbers game because I didn't develop into a superstar. And when you're not that superstar, you kind of lumped into everybody else, and then it just becomes a numbers game.
That's good. I did not know. Did y'all know that? This is behind the scenes. You heard it here first. Secret NFL intel, okay? Now, once you got into the NFL, and you get cut the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time, the seventh time.
You can stop now.
The ninth time, why didn't you give up? Is it still because you're seeking that admiration?
Well, it's probably that. And then also, you got to think, I played with a lot of guys, especially in college. People like Carl, who were great athletes, actually a pretty good person. He just had some issues. But they didn't make it. And so since I felt like I had the honor to be in the NFL, I didn't want to stop until I had to.
Yeah.
Because I felt like there are so many people that would want to be in my position. There are so many young athletes that look up to me. And every single year I used to do a football camp back in my hometown. And the fact that I just had a number under my back and a Lions logo on my helmet and how they looked up to me, it meant the world to me. So it was actually more important than just playing football.
Yeah.
But I was a representation of my family, my friends, my hometown, my teammates that didn't make it. So all of that combined is what actually kept me going.
And when you were cut, did you have to go and re-audition?
Yeah, so it's weird. So once you get cut, like basically they just send you home. They put you in, they say you have to pack up your locker. So they give you one of those gigantic black trash bags. And you got to put everything in your in the trash bag, and they'll ship the trash bag home.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that and literally that's it. So then, embarrassment. And so then you get workouts. So let's say somebody gets hurt, then they'll call like 5. So I play defensive line. So let's say, a defensive lineman from the Minnesota Vikings gets hurt.
Okay.
So what they'll do is they'll call me and 10 other defensive linemen who had got cut from teams before, and they'll call us in for a workout. And so then you have to do a workout and perform in front of everybody. You have to be in shape all the time. And, if you get signed, you have to learn their entire playbook in one day. Like, there's no excuse.
Quick onboarding.
Yes. So the level of accountability that I had, so it's different. If you're a superstar, I mean, of course the accountability is high, but if you're a guy who just came to the team, like, there is no excuse. If you don't know that entire playbook by that next practice, I don't care if I just got there the night before, like, I could literally be cut from the team the next day because I messed up one of the plays.
And does each play have a name? How are you memorizing these plays?
Yeah, so each one has a name. So I kind of developed a formula of how I remember plays.
Another framework, another trademark.
So, like, for example, if there was a play that was called Field Eagle 2 Tasty Freeze, okay? So I knew, well, anytime I heard anything with the letter F, that means the field side. So I just knew automatically, okay, I had to make this move because it has the letter F. And that was across the board in the NFL. And so when I would go to a new team, I would have to kind of put that together so I can make my own formula of way to learn plays. Or if I didn't, I'm going to get cut again.
This is brilliant, because imagine if every time we had to let someone go, we had a one-day play, something they could study, and by tomorrow, if you don't know this, you're going to get cut, so you really better study it, and then they come to work and they ready to go. So these plays, that's fascinating to me. Now, you're on the field, you go back and forth, you stayed in shape every single time. So every time you got cut, you did not cut your workouts, you did not cut your regimen, you stayed with your identity as an NFL player. Yes,
because I had to actually go even harder, because when you're on a team, like, you practice every day, and there's only a certain amount of reps that you can get because practices are really intense. So therefore, since they're so intense, you can't do it for so often. But I didn't have another offensive lineman to practice against, so I had to increase my weight room workouts. I had to increase my sprinting and conditioning. I had to be so overly prepared that when it was time for me to step on the field, there was no argument, no mistake that this dude is ready.
And when did you start your entrepreneurial journey? So you eventually decide to retire, and then when did you know you were an entrepreneur? Were you starting that while playing, or did you wait until you retired?
No, I was not, and I'll be honest with you. When I retired from the NFL, the last time I got cut, I had an injury, and that was my last play. I, like a lot of other guys, just went into a place of, like, what do you do? And everybody says, oh, while you're playing, you should have a plan B. You should have a plan B. Well, what happens when your plan A is so strong that you can't focus on anything else? See, a lot of times we talk about having this plan B, but I was in the NFL.
Right.
I had each play, not just in the games, but in practice, I was evaluated. So where in my mind do I have the bandwidth for a plan B when I'm just trying to make it not just every game, not just every practice, but every single play? So therefore, my 100% focus was being in the NFL and playing that, and I'm glad that I did like that. So I didn't really know that I would be an entrepreneur. Well, my parents were entrepreneurs growing up, so that was one thing. But I didn't start really my businesses until my wife. She started her business. So my wife's a physical therapist. Now, you got to think this. I'm 2 years removed from the NFL. And there's a whole story about how I got embezzled for pretty much everything that I own. That's a whole different story, how I came back from that. But so anyway, so after all this happens, man, in a rough place, but trying to make things happen, my wife comes to me and she says this. She says, hey, I've been a physical therapist for the last 6 years. I see 20 patients a day at this other clinic, and I just can't get people better doing that. And she says, what do you think about me starting my own business right now? And this is what I said to her. And I'm thinking, like, I'm 2 years removed from the NFL. I was like, I don't know how we're going to do this. And I'm saying, yes, baby, please start the business. Please, right now, start this business. My mouth is saying yes. My mind is saying, how are we going to do this? So we started the business. And I was her first employee. And I had to learn how to bill. I had to learn how to do patient verification. I had to learn everything about how to run a physical therapy clinic so that I could put my wife in the position to be her best self, which is treat people.
Wow.
So that's my first foray in the business. But my second foray in the business might now be, you talked about how to win a man in 30 days, mastermind, It might be on the books now, though. But
right, because you may know some people that are single.
Right. I might. for a price.
Trying to help for a price. You got to join the mastermind. So, okay, I love that. Actually, we should talk because that would, anyways. So, that would probably work. But, anyways, I'll say this: you learn the ropes out of love to help your wife in her business to grow. When did you know you had a gift for speaking and start learning the business of speaking so that you could then go and build your speaking business?
Well, I've always loved words. I was an English major in college, and I was an English major because I couldn't stand math. And so, but even throughout grade school, high school, college, I used to always love writing stories. That was just my thing, writing stories. And so I remember my first year in the NFL, some of the guys, because a lot of these guys are actually brilliant people that play in the NFL. Engineers, medical doctor, played with Myron Rolle, who's a neurosurgeon. So really brilliant guys. And so they used to always come to me like, Flu. That's what they call me because my last name's Fluellen. Flu, like, what are you going to do with an English degree? Like, what are you going to do? You going to be a bookkeeper? What are you going to do? You going to work in a library? So they also laugh. And then it's just so funny. I was just like, well, I speak English and I love speaking, so I'll probably be a motivational speaker. I mean, it just lends to make sense. Yeah. And so I've always known that I just love words. And so, like I said, I was an English major. I was a journalism minor. I was on the NFL Network a few times. So I've always known that something with words would be what I do. And it turned into a real career, though, after I actually met somebody inside of my wife's clinic. And I guess I can tell you that story, too.
Wow. That is incredible. One of the things that, a big misperception that I talked about with Sonia earlier, because she's an Olympic gold medalist multiple times over, was people think that because you are successful in one avenue, you don't have to pitch or do work. But she talked about pitching Nike in order to get a deal. And when we spoke, one of the reasons why I invited you is you talked about the rigor with which you pitch these different schools and school districts to bring you in. So talk a little bit about that mindset. Did you also believe that because you were in the NFL, the schools would open their doors without you having to do the work of pitching and relationship building? And give us a little bit about your process for landing these contracts.
Yeah, so there were two things. I remember the first time I spoke at a school, and I thought that, just because I was athlete, got a beard, that they would listen to me. And so I remember I spoke at this middle school, and I remember heading to the back afterwards, and there were two speakers. And the first kid said, hey, that first speaker was awesome, but that football player guy, oh man, he sucked. I was like, oh my God, right? And I realized at that moment, because remember, I have two things, enjoyment and embarrassment. From that moment, I said, oh no, this ain't gonna happen again. I'm not about to get embarrassed by some seventh grader out here. And so so part of that talk that I talked about with Carl, that I told you about, well, that's actually part of my school speech. So what I did every day, I would practice in the mirror as if I'm speaking to thousands of kids over and over and over and over. I mean, thousands of times I did this, y'all. Because I knew that not only did I have to be good, but I had a responsibility. Because I talk about mental health in my student assemblies. I had a responsibility not just to be good, but to be excellent. And so therefore, that's when I had to do that from that point. But in terms of reaching out to schools, I knew, because I've been around enough schools, I knew it was kind of hard to get involved. So when I speak out to schools or reach out to schools or student organizations, like I was telling her, I'll reach out to maybe 50, 100 a day. Yeah. In a day. I've done it.
Yeah, I've done
it. Yeah, okay. I've done it before. And so, but what that did was, and even if it worked or it doesn't work, it conditions you to not only work, because it's not just about working. But what I really found was I started finding enjoyment about connecting with people and finding ways to connect. And that's what it was about. See, I knew one email didn't work, one phone call didn't work, okay. But then when I started realizing, what do I need to say for this next phone call that can really get that person's heart? And then I started saying, oh, this is all about connecting with people. Yeah. And I would never have learned that if it wasn't for the 100 calls one day, the 50 calls one day. So the work isn't just about doing the work to land the gig. Yes. The work is about doing the work to land yourself. And that's what it's really about.
That is so good. Now, what is the number one thing that you've taken from the NFL into your business that could help all of the entrepreneurs in this room?
There's a story about a guy I played with who was the hardest worker I've ever seen, ever in my life. And so we were both rookies for the Lions. He was an offensive lineman, and the dude was there before everybody. He was the last one to leave every single day. And then it came to training camp. I remember the first day of training camp, this dude was flying around the field like a wild animal. I mean, he was pushing people in the ground, slamming their helmets down. Mean, nasty, that's exactly what you would want from an offensive lineman. That's what you want. I remember I was beside the head coach, like me and you right here. The head coach taps the scout on the shoulder, the head scout, and this is the guy that makes the roster cuts and additions and all that. The coach points at that offensive lineman, taps on the scout, and he says, I want that guy out of here today, off the team. And I was like, what? Before the end of the day, he had his black trash bag with all of his stuff, shipped home, never played a down in the NFL after that. Now, what did I learn from that? A lot of us in our businesses are out here flying around, working as hard as we can. The problem with him wasn't his effort. It was his focus and direction. Yes. See, he was too wild. He was too out of control in his business. He was too out of control on the field. A lot of times as business owners, we can kind of think that hard work is the answer when it's really just excellent execution is the answer.
Yes, that is so good. Now, what would you say to the person, because how many of you in here are in the Pitch Your Way to Cash Academy? So you all are pitching and reaching out. What is your best strategy for getting to the decision maker when they're getting so many emails every single week?
Well, for me, and probably for everybody in here, you have some sense of authority in something. All right, so for longest time, I didn't really want to use the fact that I played in the NFL. But then I'm like, well, that's just going to open it. Somebody say, why? Or exactly. That's going to open the door. And I actually, because I didn't want to get defined as an NFL player, I wanted to be Andre Fluellen. So you got to understand, I was multiple people in my life. I was born Andre Kenneth Fluellen. And then when I became an athlete, I was Flu. And then when I went to college, I was 96. And then when I got to the NFL, I was the Detroit Lion. And so at the end of the day, Andre Fluellen was somewhere buried deep down in front of and underneath all these jerseys. And so at one point in time, I really tried to get away from the NFL because I wanted to find Andre again. But then I forgot that Andre is the one that made it to the NFL. Yeah. Andre is the one that had the jersey on. Yeah. Andre is the one that made numbers 96. Yeah. 96 didn't make Andre. Yeah. And so that's when I really started, when I started leaning into my authority. Yes. And that's what I would highlight for all of you in here is whatever authority that you have. You might be one of the greatest speakers. You might know about books and clerical things better than anybody. So you just lean into the thing that you have the most authority, and it's not because the authority's sake, it's because of your own confidence. Yes. So you only feel confident in the thing that you know. Yes. And so when you reach out from that level of confidence, we talked about manifesting earlier, it breaks down every wall, and you'll be amazed at what you're like, wow, how did this work so easily? It's not because of them, it's because of your own individual confidence.
That is so good. Did you all catch that? Now, because if you're getting rejected, if you reach out to 100 people, how many rejections are you getting?
90.
Okay. So with 90 rejections and knowing that you have kind of struggled with this fear of embarrassment, how did those rejections not embarrass you?
Well, it's fun now because remember I told you my second favorite athlete of all time is Tom Brady, and everything now that I look at is wins and lessons, not wins and losses. Mm-hmm. And so every single time, I think it was Thomas Edison, he said, it took you 10,000 tries to create a light bulb. He said, no, I didn't get it wrong 10,000 times. All I did was find 10,000 ways that did not work. And so that's what I did. Every single time, every single email, every single sales call, I get just a little bit better and better and better at each one. And so it just becomes a game to me. So if it works, great. Sometimes I actually look back and I'm glad some of the stuff that didn't work. Because if you get right the wrong way, you'll think wrong is right. And we don't need that.
That is so good. Can you all give it up for Andre Fluellen? This was incredible, absolutely incredible. I want to make sure we get a picture before we get off stage, but I'm gonna give you, we got 30 seconds. I know you're a motivational speaker. You do this all around the world. Stand up, 30 seconds, motivate the people while we get the camera people here for us to take our photo. 30 seconds, give them the best you got. They're entrepreneurs, they're going through it. Some are winning, some are on their way to a win. What would you say to the person who feels like it just may not work out for them, even though they have a glimmer of hope that it might?
All right, so let me give you one of my 7 laws of success. And one of the 7 laws is actually called the law of business and entrepreneurship. Now listen, I'll be honest with you, business and entrepreneurship is actually supposed to be easy. When I say easy, listen, I don't mean effortless, I mean automatic. All right, so here are the ways to make the law of business, and it's stated as such. First of all, find a way to get paid to do what you are already easily and passionately doing anyway. That's the first thing. Because listen, if you find a way to easily get paid to do what you're passionately doing anyway, it'll never feel like work. The second thing is find a way to solve your own problem. Listen, a lot of times we think entrepreneurship is about the other person. It is actually about you. Because once you find a way to solve your own individual problem, and then you find a way to get paid to do what you're already doing anyway, listen, there's always a million people that have your same problem that you've already solved for yourself, and then you can sell it to them. Why? Because you are passionate about that problem, because you know better than anybody of how to get over that problem. So remember, get paid to do what you're already easily, passionately doing it anyway. Find a way to solve your own problem. That is the law of business and success.
Andre Fluellen, everybody!
Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. Energy high, excuses low. I need energy, need only good people that's around me. All the faith you can give, that's the recipe.